Today I'm going to be reading the passage for today. We're going to be in Exodus chapter 2, verse 11 through chapter 3, verse 1. This is the making of Moses. This is the word of the Lord. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day, he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "What I did must have become known." When Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked them, "Why have you returned so early today?" They answered, "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." "And where is he?" Reuel asked his daughters. "Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat." Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. This is the word of the Lord.
Thank you, brother. Super pumped to be here with you all tonight. I think this is an awesome piece of scripture to dive into. And to get to where we're going tonight and get our heads kind of leaning into where I'm going to lead us tonight, I just have a question for you all in the room. Have any of y'all ever had the best intentions in the world, the greatest motivations to do something, and then when you do it, it does not turn out the way you hope? Just a head nod, hands, thank you, appreciate you, people that did it. Yes, it's happened to us all. My favorite story to tell about when this happened to me goes way back to when I was a little kid. I was in elementary school. I'm not 100% how old I was, but I know I was in elementary school, and I wasn't quite old enough where I hung out inside and played video games. Because where the story takes place is me and my friends decided to run a lemonade stand. Me and my friends had been planning this all week. Some of our friends had gone to the grocery store with their parents and gotten supplies. We had been planning to do this lemonade stand for a while. People at school had told us they had made a bunch of money doing this, and we were like, we are going to run this lemonade stand. And we get there, we're out there for about 2 or 3 hours. I think we sold 1 glass of lemonade. And then what happened was all my friends realized that every single person that had come by our lemonade stand was an adult, because we were all the kids in the neighborhood. So the people we were trying to sell to were adults. And one of my friends said, "Dude, if we just had something that adults liked, because clearly they don't like lemonade, this would go so much better." And I was like, "Dude, you're totally right. I have just the thing. My dad has this thing called Mike's Hard Lemonade in his fridge that he says is only for adults. I'll go back to my house, I'll take it, and then we'll sell that to adults when they come by the lemonade stand." And all my friends saw no problem with that. They were like, "Will your dad be mad?" And I was like, "No, he was really excited about the lemonade stand. He'll be cool with it." So I run back to my house. I steal every single Mike's Hard Lemonade in my dad's fridge. I come back to the lemonade stand, and I throw it in a cooler. I shut the cooler. 15 minutes goes by. Car comes. We offer them a regular glass of lemonade. We're like, 50 cents for lemonade. She's like, "Oh, guys, you guys are so sweet, but I really don't want lemonade." She's about to drive away, and I go, "Wait. I have something else in the cooler that I think you'll like." And again, I am in elementary school, and I pop open the cooler, and I'm like, "Do you want these?" Did not go the way I hoped. What I thought was going to happen is she was going to be like, thank you so much. I appreciate this. This is perfect for me. What really happened is she asked me where I lived. She followed me to my house. She rung my doorbell, and my mom came out and yelled at me for an hour, and then I got grounded for 2 weeks. And I never did a lemonade stand ever again. Never have sold lemonade again in my life. But truly, I tell you, I thought I was helping. My friends, we were so upset about our lemonade stand. We really wanted it to work out, and from the best intentions, I thought I could help them do what they wanted. But it did not go the way I hoped. The plan did not work out. And a lot of you all may feel that way in your life right now. You may have something in your life that you really care about, something that you've thought about for a long time, and it seems no matter how great the intentions are in your heart, it doesn't seem to work out. You may feel like this is your passion in life. And that's where we're going tonight, is I'm going to talk about our passions. So those things that we really care about. They come from deep inside. And to really give us a perfect example of what I'm trying to do is I wanted to give us a definition of what passion is. So I'm not just saying this word just in case you don't understand where I'm trying to go with this. So I have this definition of passion behind me. And the way it's described is passion is an intense, barely controllable emotion such as deep love, ardent enthusiasm, or extreme anger. And what this means is that our passion itself is not its own emotion. It is when an emotion of ours reaches that boiling point where it's like we cannot stop thinking about it. It controls our brain. We think about it all the time. Deep love, the love you feel for a close friend, your brother, your sister, your fiance, wife, spouse, whoever, this overwhelming love you feel for somebody that you can't contain, your mom, your dad. Ardent enthusiasm, those hobbies that you love. Some people love like fantasy football. They love movies. Some people are into photography, that all they want to do in their free time is go take pictures. These things get you so excited. I've gotten to know some of you all over the last 6 months that I'm working here, and I get to hear about these things that you love, and it's one of my favorite parts of my job. I got to talk to Cadence last week about how she wants to be a marine biologist, and that was dope. I've talked to Sophie about how she wants to serve our special needs brothers and sisters in our community. Like, very, very cool to hear people's passions. And those ones are really nice, those enthusiastic ones, the ones that make you really happy. But the last thing in our definition of passion is extreme anger. There's also a passion that is anger that comes out most often when we see something we cannot stand, something we do not like, something that makes us uncomfortable. Maybe there's an injustice in the world that just gets you going and you cannot sit still when you think about it. And this passion rises up out of you. And that's kind of where we're going to go today, is because I think that type of passion oftentimes does come from a good place. There are things that are wrong in our world. There is sin in our world, and we should be swelled up with emotion when we see it. But oftentimes, like I said in my story earlier, there's a problem that needs to be fixed. We care about it, but we don't actually know what to do about the thing we care about. And sometimes when we try, we mess it up. And so before we get started, before we go a little deeper into the story of Moses, I want to, people in the crowd, if you are someone who has had a passion in your life and you have tried to do something about it and that did not go well, you are not alone, and God did not take away your only chance. You did not lose your opportunity to do something good about that thing that you cared about. In fact, the story of Moses is going to tell us the exact opposite. So we are going to hop into Scripture, and thank you to Nolan for already reading for me, but I'm going to go over again Exodus 2, verses 11 through 12, which is, one day, after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people, looking this way and that, and seeing no one. He killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. I don't know why when I read this passage, I always assume that Moses hit this guy over the head with a rock. So if I come back to this part and I randomly do this motion like this, I don't know why, but in my head, he hit this guy over the head with a rock and then buried him in the sand. That's not actually like canon, like Scripture doesn't actually say that, but that's what I picture in my head. So if I get going and I get really passionate about a part, you might see me go like this, so my bad. But Moses grew up his whole entire life in the palace of Egypt. He was an Egyptian, basically, but the whole entire time he knew and completely understood that he was a Hebrew. And we don't know if this was like the last straw or the first time it happened, but he is out and about in the world, and he sees this Hebrew being beaten by an Egyptian, and that passion, that extreme anger we talk about, rose up out of him. And to be completely fair, he was right to be angry about it. Seeing someone be beaten in that manner is not okay. There is nothing wrong about what Moses felt. He understood that something was wrong, and he wanted to do something about it. The problem is the response that Moses took to this situation. His response, when he sees misjustice or injustice in his world, and he really doesn't understand what to do, he just knows something needs to be done, is he reaches out and he kills this guy. He sees sin in the world, and his response is to respond with more sin. And what we find out in our lives is we will see people do things we don't like. They could be 100% wrong. What they did could be terrible. But if you just do something terrible back, it's not going to solve that problem. If you let your anger lead you to do things that you are not in control of, you're not going to solve that problem. You're just going to create more problems. And we see that as we continue the story in verses 13 through 15, is that Moses did not succeed in fixing anything by taking this action. In fact, he really just succeeded in making things worse. In verses 13 through 15, it reads, "The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, 'Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?' The man said, 'Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?' Then Moses was afraid and thought, 'What I did must have become known.' And when the Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well." So again, Moses killed this dude, goes back to sleep at night, wakes up the next morning, still feels the same way, still feels like his people should be protected, but then he goes to two of his own people and tries to share with them what he feels and what he thinks is right, and they want no part of it. They saw how he handles the things he doesn't like. He killed somebody. They want no piece of what he's selling, and they turn him away. And what we see is that when we react out of passion instead of act out of passion, it leads to problems. Because that's truly what Moses did, is Moses reacted to what he saw, and therefore it created problems. And I want to break that down a little bit just so we make sure we know what I'm talking about. And it is a reaction. It's instantaneous. It is unprepared, and is often harmful. It is when someone says something rude to you and you just immediately respond and say something rude back. They say, "You're ugly," and you say, "You're uglier." Solve the problem. No more problems. They know they're uglier. It's fine. We're good. We can move on now. Not usually how it goes. When we react to problems, we create more problems in our lives. What is beneficial is acting on our passion. And an action is slow, it is prepared for, and it is usually beneficial. An actual action is you sit and you think about what you're going to do next. If Moses sat and worked on something, he probably could have done something beneficial for the Hebrew people. If you sit and think and spend time with the Lord working on your passions, you probably can use them to benefit the kingdom. He put them on your heart for a reason. There's a reason you feel the way you do. But if every time that passion builds up in you, you just do the first thing on your mind, you're going to continue to create problems. You're not going to solve the things you want to see fixed. You're just going to keep spiraling in a circle where you affect the people around you in negative ways. I watched a movie this weekend with my fiance. It's my favorite movie ever. It's called Speed Racer. There's a scene very early in the movie Speed Racer where Speed, our main character, yes, the main character of the movie is named Speed Racer, if you couldn't already tell. He's a kid in the movie, and he goes to the racetrack with his older brother, who is a race car driver. And his older brother very recklessly lets him sit in the front seat and drive the car, which is extreme negligence, but it's really good in the movie. So give it a try. And he lets his little brother sit in the cockpit and drive the car, and they are driving around this racetrack. And as you watch them race around the racetrack, the little brother is constantly, right before they get to a turn, just jerking the steering wheel. Every time they get to a turn, he just harshly reacts and turns the steering wheel everywhere they turn. And technically, like, he's still on the track, and they're not crashing, but Has anyone been in the car when someone just whips the steering wheel right before the turn? Not cool, right? Not the vibe. They don't understand because they're holding the steering wheel, but like you feel how the car is moving and you flop around in the car. And so he's doing that to his brother, and his brother finally makes him stop. And his brother says this line to him, and it's really powerful to me. As I saw this weekend, he says, "Stop steering, start driving." And what he meant by that is when you're just steering something, you're just reacting to what's coming at you. Oh, someone yelled at me. What's my instant response? Yell back. Oh, someone posted something on social media I don't like. I'm going to go say a nasty comment under there. The first reaction you have, you're just constantly living life steering. Whatever life gives at you, you just do something else. Versus driving is you are controlling yourself. You actually are looking at the road ahead of you. You are prepared for what is coming. You don't react to the world. You make an impact on your own. You don't wait for it to impact you. And I know that's like a silly kids movie, but that was really powerful to me as a kid, and still is to this day, is like I don't want to live my life steering and reacting to all the things of the world around me, because it's going to lead me to not have the impact I want to have. It's going to lead you all to not have the impact you dream of having if you just live your whole entire life reacting off what the world does, because the world's a bad place and it's going to keep sending bad things your way. But if you take control and you drive, you can do great things with your passions. You can do great things with that thing that God has set on your heart. But Moses needed to make a plan, and he didn't know how. And a lot of you all may be in that stage right now where you don't actually know how to do something. You don't know how to drive this thing that's on your heart. But God doesn't just leave you alone to figure it out. If we keep reading through the story of Moses, we see that God had a very specific plan in place for him in verses 16 through 22. And it reads, "Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to water their father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. When the girls returned to rule their father, he asked them, 'Why have you returned so early today?' They answered, 'An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock.' 'And where is he?' Reuel asked his daughters. 'Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat.' Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, 'I've become a foreigner in a foreign land.'" So just a little bit of context, you understand what happens here. The Midianites, were a group of very nomadic people that lived back then. They lived in what would be now like common day Saudi Arabia type area. They did not make cities, they did not make settlements. They lived off the land, and they took their flock with them wherever they go. So where they would sleep at night is a tent. So this thing that God had for Moses was not the palace he grew up in his entire life, but a pasture where he'd literally live in a tent. And that was the way that God was going to prepare him as he switched his life completely. Moses needed a different season than what he was used to really become prepared. And God may have the same thing in place for you. Your preparation may not be waking up and doing the same thing every day for the next 5 years. It may be a drastic switch. It may be something that you were not prepared for at all. That seems so uncomfortable and so hard. Can you imagine literally living in the king's palace, and then on a Tuesday you now live in a tent and are a shepherd? There's no way Moses could have been prepared for that change. So if you feel like there's something in your life that suddenly shifted and things are a little uncomfortable and a little hard, that could be God putting you through the season he put Moses through, so that Moses could come out on the other side and be a benefit to those around him. Because Moses needed to leave the palace for a pasture to be prepared for what he wanted to do. He wanted to care for his people. He wanted to take care of them, but he didn't even know what they were like. He lived in a palace all the way up there away from them. How could he possibly know what they were like? But then all of that got shifted, and now he was a dude who slept in a tent and moved every couple of months. He learned what it was like to be a regular man, and so this very specific training helped him. But one thing I want to point out, yes, that's inspirational that he has a plan for you, but you have to be prepared that that season could last a while. What we find out when we do like historical context of this story of Moses is that most likely Moses was a shepherd for 40 years. So this season was 40 years. I don't necessarily stand up here to tell you, hey, 40 years from now, you will be ready. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying don't expect it to be overnight. I think a lot of media tries to convince us that we can just wake up tomorrow, change our life, 7-step program, and we will be the person we want to be. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think usually it takes a long season. I also watched another movie a couple weeks ago called Thor. People see that? People into Marvel stuff around here? Yes, no, maybe a little bit? Okay. Weirdly similar story that the Disney writers did in Thor. Dude in a palace, cares about his people a lot. His people are having conflict with this other people group. Only rational decision that this dude can come to is, well, I'll just kill that guy, and then my people will be all right. And then gets kicked out of the palace and has to live on Earth instead. Weirdly similar story to Moses. The difference is in Thor's story, in that movie, if you've seen that movie, is his season where he got sent away to learn how to be a better king, be a better leader, was like 3 days. He's literally not in the palace for 3 days, and after 3 days he comes back and he's like, I get it now. I understand it now. Most likely, your preparation won't be 3 days. I don't think it'll be 40, but you have to be prepared for the work that God is going to do in your life, and it does take time. You have spent your whole entire life living a certain way, and he wants to change things about that so you can do the things you actually want to do. So it will take time. But there's joy on the other side of that season, whatever that season is for you. Some of you are aware of what I'm talking about. You're in the season right now. Some of you don't know when it's coming. Take joy because there is something on the other side. If we continue reading our scripture in verses 23 through 25, it reads, during that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. One thing to point out real quick, this word remembered. A lot of people read this passage and are like, oh, God forgot about them. Translation is tough from Hebrew to English, but really what this word most likely meant is kind of, have you all ever been just in a store, and then you just see something and it reminds you of your buddy or your mom or your dad, or you're on vacation, you were like, wow, they would love this. And you remember them, grab something, bring it home for them. Doesn't mean you forgot they existed. That's kind of the moment God has here. He sees the suffering his people are in, and he's like, gosh, I have to do something about this. But he had been preparing something that whole time. That whole 40 years, he had been preparing someone like Moses, because the Hebrews were in suffering and they needed someone to lead them. But that person couldn't just be a regular person. They needed two things. They needed to, one, be passionate about his people. What they were going to have to do was very hard. If you've read the rest of Exodus, you know that Moses literally had to command the 10 plagues. He had to beg Pharaoh, a king, to let a bunch of his slaves go, which is crazy. But God knew that was coming. So first of all, the man had to be passionate. We know that Moses was passionate because he bashed that dude's head in with a rock. We know that he was passionate. The second thing that this man needed to be able to do was to lead people and lead a flock. And it's crazy. What God needed for the Hebrews was a shepherd, and the thing that Moses had been doing for the last 40 years, even though he had no experience in it before, even though it made no sense because he was literally living in a palace, was being a shepherd. And we read it in Exodus 3, verse 1, and it was, now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And here in this verse, we're told everything we need to know about who Moses is now. It's that he is. He's a shepherd. He leads a flock. He leads them where they need to go. He keeps them safe. And if you continue to read the book of Exodus, that is exactly what the Hebrews needed because they were going to be led out of Egypt to somewhere else. So over that 40 years that seemed crazy to Moses, he became exactly what the Israelites needed. And that exists for you too. That isn't just a Moses thing. Moses really isn't that great of a dude. His story starts with him murdering somebody. This exists for you all in the room. It exists for me. There is something on the other side of that season that is tough and hard for you, and it is something that God has specifically for you. Specifically for you. But you have to be okay with that season first. You have to be okay with being trained to get there. Because he is, I'm confident in it, he is calling you to something specifically, but to get there, you'll need to be stretched because we're not ready from day one. You will need to be stretched to get there. For me personally, what that stretching looked like was, if you all have gotten to know me and you heard my testimony a few months ago, I shared that I struggled with a drug addiction in high school. And I go on this mission trip, and someone shares the gospel with me in a way I'd never heard before. It was so powerful. It was so cool. I was woken. I felt the Spirit when I gave my life to Christ, and I felt overwhelmed, and I really wanted to do something about it. The issue with that was I was still a drug addict. Even though I had all of this inside of me and I was so excited to go do something with it, I needed to go tell somebody else exactly how they could find what I found in Jesus, I still couldn't function without smoking weed or taking pills. So something needed to be changed. I needed to be stretched. And what that stretching looked like was a year and a half where I changed my whole entire life, my structure, the way I lived, what I did. Because the way I lived before is I went out every single night. I was surrounded by people, I was never alone, and I was always doing those things. And what changed through relationship with the Lord is I ended up getting solitude. I spent most Fridays and Saturdays for that year and a half alone. And I don't know if some of you are extroverts, introverts. It's weird trying to switch and do the other thing. I went from constantly having people around me to I would sit alone in my room. And there were days where I felt so lonely, but when I got lonely, I would turn to God. And that solitude and that relationship stretched me and changed me over that year and a half. And I say a year and a half because a year and a half is about the time where I stopped actually wanting the drugs. Because of that solitude I had had with the Lord, I had found something new and I didn't want them anymore, but I had to do that year and a half first. And it was so crazy because somehow right at that exact moment, right when this year and a half goes by, coincidentally, someone asked me to step into a ministry role right then. What a coincidence. Right when I stopped having those pains to want it anymore, suddenly someone saw that I was ready to be in leadership, and I got asked to go in leadership. And now, 10 years later, I get to have conversations with young men and women who also struggle with drug addiction. And I get to look at them in the face and I get to say, I overcame it and this is how. And it's all because of that season of preparation that God did 10 years ago that was so hard. So if you're out there right now and you know that you have a passion and you believe that God is calling you to something, but out of nowhere, life got kind of hard. You got asked to do something you do not want to do. Something changed in your relationship. Something changed in the people you hang out with and you are unsure why. That's the season. You are in the season right now. You are Moses in the pasture right now. If it hasn't come yet, be ready. Be ready for when the season comes and be open to what the Lord has, even if it is hard, because it will change you if you let it. But if you fight it, you'll just stay the same. You won't be stretched. You won't be different. So the band's about to come out here in a second. We're going to sing, and what I really hope that you would let sit on your heart as we sing this last song and as we pray and we close tonight is, Lord, what are you doing to try to prepare me? What is it? What is it that you're trying to prepare me with? And have I been fighting it? Because I would guarantee there's some people in this room that right now are like, oh, wait, maybe that was the thing. And maybe I was ignoring it because it was hard. Ask him for clarity on how he's going to prepare you. And if you're in the season right now, make yourself open to what he's doing. With that, I'm gonna pray us out, and then we'll sing together. So thanks for listening. Father God, I just praise you for being here in this room. I praise you for the people that chose to come here tonight, Lord. I pray that you wake them up and let them see that you have given them a calling. You have given them a purpose, even if they don't see it yet, Lord. Let them forgive themselves if they have tried to live out that passion before and failed. Let them see that you still have more for them and they did not miss their chance, Lord. And most of all, challenge us, Lord. Let us see the thing in our life that we have been fighting desperately, but really you're trying to use to prepare us, to make us into the man or woman that can do the things we dream about, the things that we desire to do for your kingdom. Wake us up tonight, Lord. Let us let you in. In your glorious name.